Welcome to episode 26 of Out of Bounds, a podcast where I give my social commentary on different topics in today's society. I'm your host, Terry, and today talking about representation. Does representation matter? A lot of people say representation matters. So for me, the idea of representation has changed, or at least my thoughts on it has changed within the last 2 years, I want to say, to where I was very much like, yeah, I don't want to hear representation matters, to the point now where I do believe it has some importance, but there's still a conversation of what's proper representation, because some people seem to think any representation is good, and I don't agree with that. So, I think most people know what we're talking about, but representation as far as like it sounds, representing different diversity in media and storytelling and anything that we kind of consume. And diversity isn't just race. Diversity is nationality, ethnicity, but it's also gender, it's also height, body type. It's also interest. It's also socioeconomics, everything. Anything can be diverse, and showing in your movies and different things that there can be different types of people and that the world's bigger than just kind of what we've historically seen on TV. And like I said, representation stretches out to a lot of different things, but I think for the most part, we focus on the media, because that's what's consumed, the most as far as, blockbuster Hollywood movies, TV shows, popular mainstream things. And so here's where I kind of feel, and I'm affected by my upbringing, of course, like everybody else. I was just not raised that way to really, go for people's color at first. And so right now the term colorblind is like labeled as a racist tool, but honestly that's how I feel I was growing up. Like I take people for who they are and what they come with. I don't take people for what they look like. And so a lot of people say, colorblind or I don't see color. That's just racism in itself, because you're saying you don't see my identity, blah, blah, blah. And I don't agree with that. I think you cannot place value on someone's skin color or whatnot and still value what they have to bring as just a person. And so for me, that's why representation was always, it's a kind of a double-edged sword almost, where you are telling people that, yes, it matters to young kids to see someone that looks like them do something. And I understand where that comes from, but at the same time, I think that's a very backwards limiting mentality to tell a kid that, or to have the conversation around kids that, hey, these kids need to see someone that's only like them to think that it's possible, and or to see that as a role model, as a positive. And I think that's sending the wrong message. That in itself is telling you that, okay, only you are going to be in this box. So it's like, well, we didn't see a black president or African American president, whatever, so you can't be it because you're black. And so before Obama, I think most people tried to curtail that, like, look, just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean you can't do it. And, you can find a role model in a president that you kind of like or speaks to you, or a role model in anybody. But then once we had Obama, then it was like, okay, now that's the example. Now you can do it. And to me, it just, I never got down with it. And so I think with representation in media and whatnot, is that we got to be careful, of continuing that conversation that, hey, you're in a box. you're a young woman, so only a female superhero can be powerful, empowering, or representative of you. I mean, yes, it is representing your identity, but that doesn't mean that's the only way that you can feel empowered or that you can feel inspired. That's my issue. If a young woman is growing up and, her favorite character is Iron Man, then it can be Iron Man. Why are people feeling like you guys say, no, it's Wonder Woman? No, it's Captain Marvel. Those are yours. That represents you. So that's what you should be happy about and support. No, maybe she connects more with the personality of Iron Man. See, that's the thing, is that we're more than just that identity. Yes, I'm a male. Yes, I'm African American, but that's not the extent of who I am. Just because I'm male and African American doesn't mean I identify with T'Chaka or T'Challa, either one, Black Panther. It may be my personality is more in line with the Hulk, who is an African American. Or maybe my personality is more in line with Wonder Woman. I identify more with her. So it's just, we have to be careful of that conversation, putting these kids in a box, because I think that's what people do. And then B, with representation, you have to be careful with understanding the intent behind it, because I think intent is very important. And so when you have movies that are coming out saying, hey, we're doing a Ghostbusters reboot, it's all female Ghostbusters. This is for the females. Yeah, we're giving the females the chance. No problem with there being an all-female Ghostbuster. But when you come out with the movie saying this is the all-female Ghostbuster, not this is the Ghostbuster reboot, this is the all-female Ghostbuster reboot. We're doing this female style, female comedy. It's just like business, as we know, and these are businesses, are amoral. They don't care. They don't care about right and wrong. They care about what sells. And they know that in 2019, all these people that are just crying and begging for representation, they're going to rally behind something just because. And it's really keeping up with the Joneses type thing. Because as soon as Black Panther hit, and you had this, which I would say was a little bit of that marketing, like, yo, this is the black movie. But I just think a lot of people took that on themselves and ran with it. I don't think the movie was like, hey, all these black people need to come see it. I just think people took it and ran with it. But as soon as that happened, you had all this other, well, where's the Latino superhero? Where's our Yellow Panther? Like, oh, where's this representation? And it's like, okay, well, it's not like they was going to put out 8 movies at once. And it was like people couldn't celebrate it because, oh, that's not my representation. Once again, putting people in these boxes. And so, well, they got one. Where's ours? And so that's part of what it is. People don't even really care. They just want something to rally behind and hope that it's good so they could, it's the sports mentality. It's the tribal mentality. People want to root for their team. And so, studios know that. These people making these contents, these characters, these TV shows and all that, they know that. And so it's not a sense of where we want to represent people. We want to show young kids growing up something different, all that. It's just a fact of we want to make money. And that's what y'all like right now. So people like progressive, we going to try to look progressive. And so when you get Marvel coming out saying, hey, real soon we're going to have our first openly gay character. And then when you had Wonder Woman, you had all these fans like, how come Marvel doesn't have a female-led superhero movie? And then they're like, whoa, we're going to have Captain Marvel coming. And then it's just like, the representation comes from bad intentions or not pure intentions. And I don't think it plays right. Like these people with Captain Marvel, and again, the movie's subjective, but you get these people like just rooting for it and yeah, she's the best and she's the best. And you really look at the quality and how it organically built and you're like, it's not there. It's just kind of shallow. And so I don't think that representation goes far. Now, it means something still, because for me, I can critically look at a movie and how it was put together and how they market it. But a kid is not. That young kid is not. That young kid just goes to the movie and just remembers how they felt impacted, and that goes on to affect their lives. So that's why I have changed. With representation, I understand it does have some importance, because a lot of times we look at it from this adult eye, and then when we take time to think about how it strikes kids, then it's different. But in that same breath, you got to be careful that these kids don't build a foundation on something faulty. So again, when you got bad representation like that, then it's like, okay, I was impacted and I grew up, feeling this and that. And then they grow up and understand how it really works, or how, the truth comes out. Then you feel some type of way. I hate to say this, but Bill Cosby, what are the ramifications? Now, Bill Cosby has a long stretched over career with a lot of accomplishments. So it's hard to use him as an example, but still, a lot of people, whether it's the Cosby Show, Different World, whatever, it affected a lot of people in the culture. And he was a big part of civil rights with all this. And so you grow up building these foundations on him, and then only to find out, not that it was a lie, because he still did those things, but what if you found out, that Bill Cosby was doing it for drug money, or not that type of drug money, but like using, selling drugs or something to produce the show or something like that. And then your foundation gets corrupted. That's what you got to be careful with. And I know it's hard to ever protect kids from that, but that's what it is, because for me, representation is the most powerful when you don't point it out. That's when it's the most powerful. It is not, to me, powerful or productive to sit here and say, hey, look, here's our black character coming in right now. Yay, we're all happy. No, that's not powerful to me. It's not powerful to me to be like, hey, guess what? I'm the gay character. I don't think that's powerful. I think it's powerful when you see your identity reflected in just a normal everyday situation with that's accepted and belongs and isn't attention called to it. And so that's the thing for me. And I was talking with some people yesterday, and we were talking about the whole Captain Marvel thing. But I'm like, the agenda follows the money, because 20 some years ago, whatever, no one cared what was going on in superhero movies. No one cared that Billy D. Williams played Harvey Dent. No one cared that Jessica Alba was part Mexican and she was Sue Storm. No one cared that Blade was a black leading hero. Like, the masses didn't care. And even if they cared, they didn't start screaming for something else. It was like, whatever. But now that these movies are the biggest things, that's when it's like, oh my God, we gotta start complaining now when we don't see ourselves. Like, no one cared before. And you know what? It was more powerful to me to see Blade and the way he was, or to see Billy D. Williams play Harvey Dent Two-Face the way they presented it, than it is now, where it was like, look at all our black characters. Look at the gay characters. Look how great it is. Like, that's not real representation to me. And so I know there's some people that's just like, I don't care what it is. If it's black, I'm supporting. If it's yellow, I'm supporting. If it's brown, I'm supporting it. Like, I don't care about the quality, any of that. And I don't think that goes anywhere. That's fickle. That's short-lived. That's frivolous. I think when you plant strong foundations is when you show children that you, whatever that identity is, you are part of the society as just as much as everybody else is. And we know that's not always how the world works, but that's what we want to show and we want to strive for. And I think that's what we should show children. We shouldn't say, hey kid, we got our movie, so we're going to go support this because this is us, and we can't feel this way about other things. So for me, I've always had that struggle representation. I know a lot of people go back and forth for that, but I never grew up that way, so it's hard for me to then push that agenda. I don't feel like someone has to look like me to inspire me. I don't feel like I can't do something unless I seen somebody that looks like me do it. That's just not how I grew up, and I don't think it's really productive to teach people that way. So that's how I come to think about representation. So anyway, go down in the comment section, let me know what you think. Share it around, get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and until next episode.